Before we get to the video, Noam Chomsky, who has been a vocal critic of neoliberalism throughout his career, his ideas on resistance focus on education, activism, and building popular movements. Chomsky emphasizes the importance of understanding how neoliberalism functions. This includes studying the concentration of wealth and power, the dismantling of social programs, and the erosion of worker rights. Educating oneself and others is a crucial first step. Now, off to this wonderful clip of Noam Chomsky, and following other key points on resisting neoliberalism and elite power structures in general.
My association with Washington, D.C. was tear gas and mace.
Well, another thing I would like to address then is you talk about the need for a popular movement and, particularly as far as I imagine it, that would take the form of protests. And part of what we see in Europe is a sort of authoritarian sweep of legislation that is very much trying to cut down on the amount of activism. What do you think are the tactics that we can use to either go about larger change or to even combat these direct curtailing of the right to protest?
First of all, that's normal. You expect state power to be used by the forces that control the state to protect themselves. You take a look at the history of labor, especially in countries like the United States, which has a more extreme form of business rule than most others do for historical reasons. Very violent labor history. Into the late 1930s, my childhood, workers were getting murdered on strikes by security forces and so on. I sometimes watched these as a child, picket lines being attacked and so on. That's natural. Any form of protest against power and authority is going to be resisted by those with power. How do you deal with it? There's no general answer. Depends on the specific circumstances. I took part in any number of demonstrations, jailed over and over. My association with Washington, D.C. was tear gas and mace. That's what you're faced with. As soon as I got to the city, that's what I expected. Okay, you find ways of living with it. There's much harsher forms, and sometimes you have to deal with them. Kettling demonstrators is a technique for preventing demonstrations from moving on, so try to find ways around them. But it takes clever tactics on the part of the demonstrators, but you have to deal with the circumstances that exist. There's no formulas. Just understand what's happening. There is a constant class war. And take a look at what's called neoliberalism. You take a course in it in the university, they'll tell you it's about markets and small government. Total baloney. Radical interference with markets for the benefit of the rich. Expansion of government for the benefit of the rich. Neoliberalism is just class war. One form of class war. I gave you some numbers. $50 trillion, a pretty nice estimate for 40 years. So face the reality, put aside the illusions, get to work to try to deal with them in whatever concrete way you can. If it's talking to people, to neighbors in their living room, well, you do that. If it's organizing mass demonstrations, do that. If it's taking over the auto industry and handing it over to the workforce, do that. You have to be practical and pragmatic. What can we do? What can be achieved under existing circumstances? Let's push the boundaries.
Chomsky advocates for building strong popular movements that can challenge the status quo. This involves uniting people from different backgrounds with shared concerns about economic inequality, environmental degradation, and social injustice. Labor unions, community organizations, and social justice movements all play a role. Chomsky believes in peaceful activism and direct action to raise awareness and pressure for change. This can include protests, boycotts, strikes, and civil disobedience. Chomsky argues that corporations and wealthy elites have undue influence on government policy. He emphasizes the need for citizens to reclaim democracy through active participation in the political process, holding elected officials accountable, and advocating for policies that benefit the majority. Well, I hope you liked the video and subscribe to the channel. If you wish, you can join the channel as a member, it would be greatly appreciated. Also, please check out my other channel, Progressive Movement, it's about US progressive politicians and policies. Now, take care and bye-bye.